Okay, so let us begin. So we will start chapter 3 today. Last time we finished chapter 2, that is about error bounds and error analysis. So where we calculate the error bounds, right? So for perturbation and residual. So today we are going to start talking about iterative method. So this is another method which we are going to use to solve a system of linear equations, right? So earlier, first chapter, we studied elimination methods. So here we are going to talk about iterative methods, right? So iterative methods means, right? So what we do is usually right. So iterative methods mean given an initial value or we choose an initial value, right? And then we apply some kind of a formula which is known as iterative formula or iteration, right? And then we will try to find a sequence of components which eventually leads to a solution which we are looking for. Right? So that is what we are going to do, right? For example, this is how you can start thinking of a system, right? So suppose, right? So suppose we want to solve, right, this ax equal to b, right? So that is, let me give you an example, right? So 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 5, right? 2, 3, 4. Okay, so suppose, right, so suppose you have a system of equations like this, right? 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 5, 2, 3, 4, right? Or let me change this to 2, 3, uh, 6. Right. So we have a system like this, right? So then what we do is, what we can do is we can separate this A, right? So this 2, 0, 0, 3, sorry, 0, 2, 0, 0, 0, 6, minus 2, 0, minus 3, minus 4, minus 3, 0, minus 5, minus 2, minus 3, 0, times x1, x2, x3 is equal to this. Right, so suppose you have a system like this, then what you do is you split A into pieces, right? You take the diagonal part separately and then you put minus of something. And so I can name this as this. So what you write is D minus M times X is equal to B. From Ax equal to B, right, you are able to write it as D minus M times X is equal to B. Right? So, this is equivalent to, so now I am going to use the notation D and M and everything, right? So if I write this, so that basically implies D times X minus M times X is equal to B. Right, so you have written Ax equal to B as D minus M times X is equal to B, right, by the way I do the example, right. So that means I write it as D times X is equal to minus Mx is equal to B. So I rearrange this. This I say D of X is equal to M times X plus B. I move this M times X to the other side. So I get M times X is equal to B. So now I multiply by D inverse. So this gives me X is equal to D inverse M times X plus D inverse B. Okay. So I start with Ax equal to B. Right? I ended up with X is equal to same equation. I just modify it. Right? By just modifying it, I ended up with X is equal to D inverse M times X plus D inverse B. Right? You know this is your M. Right? So this is your M and this is your D. Right? And B is the same. So you know that if Ax equal to B is given, you can find D and M, right, such that you get X is equal to D inverse Mx, right, so D inverse, D inverse Mx plus D inverse B, right. So if you know D, you can find D inverse. If you know M, you can find M, and inverse B you can find. Right. So now you can see that you have X on both sides. You have an X here and you have an X here. And so this actually, right? So let me write it down. Your X is equal to D inverse Bm is going to be like this, right? 0 minus 3 over 2 minus 4 over 2 minus 3 over 2, 0 minus 5 over 2 minus 2 over 6 minus 3 over 6, 0 times X plus D inverse B is 2 over 2, 4 over 2, 6 over 6. Okay, so if you calculate D inverse M, you get this, And if you calculate D inverse B, you get that. So now you have X is equal to this times X plus that, right? So, but your question is you want to find X, right? So if you want to find X, right, what you can do is you start with an X naught, right? So let me put note here. Let me say that is 0, 0, 0, right? And then you put that X naught here. Okay, put this X naught here and find X1. Right? So if you put X naught there and find X1, which is this, so you will end up with this. So you find X1 using X1 is equal to this, right? So your D inverse mx naught plus D inverse B, right? So you put this X naught here and calculate this and get X1, right? So if you put everything and calculate, you can easily see the number, right? So this you put 0, 0, 0, only you get this. So 1, 2, and 1, right? So then what you do, right? Calculate X2, same formula. So D inverse M times X1 plus D inverse B, right? Same formula. You put X1 here now and get X2. And then put X2 here, you get X3. So this process is called right. So this process is called iteration. So what you do is you substitute the previously calculated value and get a new value. Again, use that and get a new value. So in that way, you keep on calculating. Right? So this kind of process is called iterative process. Right? So this kind of process is called iterative process. This gives you so this is going to give you a sequence, right? A sequence X naught, which you choose, and then X1, X2, X3, X4, and it will keep on computing the values, right? So you can always stop the iteration whenever the solution is reached, right? So we will talk about how to stop the iteration and everything later. But this is how, in general, you can think of an iterative method to solve the system of equations, right? So in order to see the solution of system of equations by using iterative methods, you can always try to develop a scenario like this, and then you can compute the iteration. So here, in a way, in this example, you can see that D inverse M is basically that row divided by the diagonal term, right? D inverse M is actually that row divided by the diagonal term. Similarly, D inverse B is again that component in B divided by the diagonal term, right? So That is because you have diagonal terms as 2, 2 and 6. Right? So instead of writing this D inverse, what we can do first is we can divide the whole equation by the diagonal term, right? And then we can generate the iterative method, right? So what I am going to do is I am going to show you how we are doing this by the means of an example, right? So right, so suppose that we have a system of equations, right? So n cross n system of equations given by this, and also let us assume that we have all the diagonal terms non-zero, right? So if in case you have diagonal terms zeros, right, you can always interchange the two rows, right, to get non-zero diagonal terms, right? Right, so you studied in the first chapter, right, interchanging of rows. So if some of the diagonal terms are zero, then what you can do is you can always interchange the rows and make that non-zero, right? So this always can be made possible, right? So by just changing any two rows, right? So that's not a big thing, right? So now what we are going to do is we are going to see how we can interpret what we did earlier in here, right? So right, so next what we do is we divide each row by the diagonal term. So here what you get is this 1 a12 over a11 all the way up to a1n over a11. This is a21 over a11 1 all the way up to a2n over a22. And finally an1 over ann, an2 over ann all the way up to 1 into x1, x2 up to xn is equal to b1 over a11, b2 over a22, all the way up to bn over ann. Okay. So when you divide each row by the diagonal term, right? So you get this from this system, right? You divide each term by the diagonal term, you ended up with this, right? So now what I'm doing is I'm going to show you a method to avoid multiplying by D inverse, right? So in order to do that, first you interchange the rows and make sure that you have non-zero terms on the diagonal, and then divide by the diagonal term so that you have ones on the diagonal. So now what I can do is I can rewrite the equation. So you solve the first equation for x1, second equation for x2, third equation for x3. When you do that, you will end up with this, right? Okay, so what I do is I solve the first equation for x1, second for x2, third for x3, and so up to xn. Right? So that means I can write as a single equation in notation, right? That is xi is equal to summation of j running from 1 to n, right? So I can easily say I to I minus 1 minus a I j over a I xj plus summation of j is equal to I plus 1 up to n minus a I j over a I plus bi over a I. Right? So you can summarize this in this form, right? Where for all I is equal to 1, 2 up to n. Right? So given a system of equations, you can first interchange the rows to make sure you have non-zero terms on the diagonal, right? And then you divide through by the diagonal terms, right? And then you solve for xi for each equation, I running from 1 to n. Right? So you will end up with this, right? Sorry, there is also an xj I am missing. So from this, I can develop iterations. right? Okay, so now by looking these two equations, you can see one thing, that the element wise representation, right? Xi is equal to summation of j running from 1 to n, I not equal to j, a minus of aij over aii, xj plus bi over aii is equivalent to the matrix notation x is equal to d inverse m x plus d inverse b, right? Where a is equal to d minus m, right? So that is equivalent. So from this we can develop iterations, right? So let me define the first type of iteration, right? This is called Jacobi. Right? So this is called Jacobi iteration, right? So right, so we define the Jacobi iteration as xik plus 1, right, is equal to summation of j running from 1 to n, j not equal to I, right, aij over minus aij over aii xjk plus bi over aii, right? So where this is true for all, I is equal to 1, 2 all the way up to n, and k running from 0, 1, 2, and so on, right? So if x naught is given, right, you can figure out x1 naught, x2 naught, x3 naught, and so on, and then you can find the iteration, right? So you can find the sequence of iterates according to this, right? So that is the way to see the Jacobi iteration, right? So here, if you are given x naught, you can always find the sequence of iterates. So let me give an example of Jacobi iteration, right? Suppose you are given a system of equations like this, right? So suppose you are given a system of equation like this, and you want to apply the Jacobi iteration. So first thing you have to make sure is you have non-zero on the diagonal. So here 4, 4, fine. But here you don't have diagonal. Diagonal is 0. Here also you have diagonal 0. So the first step is, right, you have to interchange. You interchange the second and third rows. And so when you do that, you get this 4, 1, 1, 0, 1, 4, 0, 1, 1, 0, 4, 1, 0, 1, 1, 4. X1, X2, X3, X4 is equal to, remember you interchanging row number 2 and row number 3, right? So first row is unchanged, so you will end up with 2, 3 and 4, 3, 2 and 4, because you interchange these two rows, right, to make sure you have non-zero terms on the diagonal, right? So I do that. Once I do that, next step is I want to divide every term by the diagonal term. Right? So that is the next step. So that is 1, 1/4, 1/4, 0, 1/4, 1, 0, 1/4, 1/4, 0, 1, 1/4, 0, 1/4, 1/4, 1. Right, so each term you divide by 4. So 1/4, 3/4, 2/4, 1. Right, because everywhere you have diagonal 4, so you divide by 4, you get this. Right? So from this, what you do? You solve for x1, x2, and x3 and x4 for each equation. And then directly you can write the iterative formula. So x1 is equal to, right, minus 1/4 x2 minus 1/4 x3, and then there is a 0, right, and then plus 1/4. x2 is minus 1/4 x1 minus 1/4 x4 plus 2/4. x3 is 1/4 minus 1/4 x1 minus 1/4 x4, sorry, plus here 3/4, 2/4. x4 is equal to 0 minus 1/4 x2 minus 1/4 x3 plus 4/4 or 1, right? So you can write this as 4/4. So you understand what I am doing, right? So you have rewrite the system as x1 for the first equation, x2 for the second equation. Hello? Solada. டிபார்ட்மெண்ட் நீங்க கிளாஸ் எடுத்து நிக்கிறேன் 3க்கு வரீங்க சரி okay so you write the first equation for x1 second for x2 third for x3 fourth for x4 so in each equation you know that in the first equation if you have x1 the other side no x1 second equation if you have x2 other side no x2 x3 other side no x3 x4 other side no x4 right so now you get the iterative formula so I am going to put it here right k plus 1 on this side k previous terms k here k plus 1 k k k plus 1 k k here k plus 1 k k right so you develop the Jacobi iteration for the given example right for this example you develop a Jacobi iteration right and then if an initial value is given you can iterate so here they don't give an initial value so I am going to choose one the easiest one is 0 0 0 right so we choose x naught so that is actually you know x1 naught x2 naught x3 naught x4 naught we choose that as 0 0 0 okay if that is not given you can choose 0 0 is the easiest choice you can choose some other values as well 1 1 1 1 you can choose 1 0 1 1 you can choose any numbers any initial value you can choose right now I choose 0 0 0 0 so what I do I will try to find x1 x2 x3 x4 and everything so in this equation you can easily find if you put k is equal to 0 on this set right so when you put k is equal to 0 you can get this right so x1 is equal to x1 1 x2 1 x3 1 x4 1 you can find right easily find right so if you put 0 0 0 you get this is 1/4 that is 3/4 the other one is half or 2/4 the other one is 1 so the first set of answers are easy because you put all zeros you can find right similarly when you put k is equal to 1 you can find x1 2 right x2 2 x3 2 x4 2 right so you can find them right so now you put this x1 or this x2 here so you can find right? So these are just calculation work so you can try your own and do this so that's not a big deal right so again put k is equal to 2 also you find right so I leave these as homeworks so you can easily compute them so that is called the Jacobi iteration right so this is an example of Jacobi iteration and this is called Jacobi iteration okay so if this is Jacobi iteration right so one thing you can notice that for a given x naught when you want to find x1 right this whole 4 equations right the first equation and second equation have no relations, right? Because when you are finding this x1 1, there is no x2 1 here, right? Only the previous iterations, right? So remark, right? Because the equations are independent to each other, right? You can see that when you are computing x1 1, at the same time you can compute x2 1 also, x3 1 also, x4 1 also, you can compute, right? So there is no problem, because only values you are using is the values from the previous step, not the values from the present step, right? So that is the important thing here, right? So you can always solve the equations in parallel to compute this, right? So now this information leads to the next iterative method, right? What will be the next iterative method? Now again we will stick with the same example, right? So now you see that when you are calculating x1, right, you use no x1, right, but you use x2 x3 x4 whatever, right? No x1, everything after x1 you use. Now when you are calculating x2, right, you can see that you are using x1 also, right? But what x1 you are using? The x1 you are choosing from the previous step, right? So x1 node you are calculating, but from this equation you already know x1 1, so you could have update that here, right? Similarly, this x1 you can use this one, right? So that is the important part for the next step, right? So here you have x1 and x1 here, which are already calculated. If you choose to solve the equation one after one after one, right? So if you solve all of them together, you cannot use it. But if you choose the first equation and then come to the second equation, you could have updated this value with this. Same here, same with this, right? Same here. Because of the previous part, you could have updated here, right? So let's see how that will work, right? If we update it, right? So, so I'm writing here, right? So on right? So if on contrast, if we decided to solve equation one after one, right, and then update whatever the value we computed already, right, then, right, then what will happen is the equation will be changed according to this, right? So after computing x1 k plus 1, you update it here. x2 k plus 1 you computed, so you update it here, right? So in that case, right, so if you choose this initial value, right, so now what we can do is you can see the calculation. Right, so in this case, I leave it here because just for a purpose, right? So in this case, right, you have to choose one by one. So your x1 is going to be 1/4. x1 is 1/4. But x2 is going to be minus 1/4 times 1/4, right? But x4 is previous, so minus 1/4 times 0 plus 3/4. Right? So you will have a new value. Right? So that is 12 minus, so 11 over 16. Right? Similarly, x31 is also same. Right? So minus 1/4 into 1/4 minus 1/4 into 0 plus 2/4. So that is 7 over 16. Right, and the next 3, so x41 is going to be minus 1/4 time x2 is 11 over 16 minus 1/4 time 7 over 16 plus 4 over 4. That is 64. 64 minus 18, 24, 48, 56. Right, so you can check this work. Right? So here in the previous method, these are the values you get: 1/4, 3/4, half, 1. But because of this change, right? Because of this change, because of the way we decided to update the values as soon as we calculated them, we get different answers, right? The first one is same, but the others are different. 11 over 16, 7 over 16, 46 over 64, right? So that is different. So, but you can see that if you continue this work, right? So similarly for the example, if you continue this for 3 or 4, 5 steps, right, for the other method and this method, right, if you continue like that, you can see that this method, this new method converges faster, right? So we will talk about that in the next class, right? So this new method has a new name, right? The earlier method, we call it Jacobi. Here, because we are updating everything, it has a new name, and that name is called Gauss-Seidel iteration, right? So in the next class, we will formally define the Gauss-Seidel iteration, and then we will talk about what are the advantages and disadvantages we have in Gauss-Seidel iteration, right? So I'll stop here and then continue in the next class.